YouTube clip here. And yeah, if you want to check out the show on YouTube, there'll be some. I usually cut out the music and all that stuff on my YouTube clips, but once again, you go to Charles Lamson's webcam video, or just look it up on Google. It's probably the easiest way to do it. But anyway, leave me some comments. I always love the YouTube comments I get. They're usually pretty insightful and helpful as well. Because sometimes I go off the reservation, as it were, and I make up facts. And I make up quote facts, and they're not so factual. And so keep me honest, ladies and gentlemen. You hear me spouting off bullshit? Keep me honest, please. And once again, yeah, if you want to call in, I don't know, we got about 15 minutes left. So that number be. Sorry, I have allergies. I know I'm sounding all weird and flimmy. I can't help it. I know it's unprofessional, but you know, so Blog Talk Radio, ladies and gentlemen. So can we all just get over ourselves, please? Okay, the number is 917-932-8806. Once again, that is 917-932-8806. Had some interesting people in the chat room tonight. If you want to come check us out, we are at blogtalkradio.com/Charles Lamson. Look for that chat link and come on in. Take your shoes off. All that stupid shit. Let's see here. Let's check it out, see if anybody's there. Nope. Chat room's wide open. Phone line's wide open. Ladies and gentlemen, make yourself heard. Be a part of the show. And, alrighty then. More of this Edward Bernays stuff. Okay. Chapter 7, Women's Activities and Propaganda. Once again, right before I went into break, I mentioned how crafty this guy was. Yeah, you know, it's funny how when we look back in history, they always say, well, Hitler said that if you get the women and blah, 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 then you get the kids and then the men follow and blah, blah, blah. And once again, this is just more propaganda. This is Edward Bernays is the one who came up with this idea. He is the one who inspired Goebbels. Joseph Goebbels wrote that propaganda in his diaries was one of his biggest inspirations. Where do you think they came up with this concept? To go after the hearts and minds of women first. No, let's just blame it on Hitler. Oh, yeah. Look, I'm not saying Hitler was a saint, because God knows he wasn't, but just the constant mind fucking gets old after a while, you know? I mean, it gets fucking old, ladies and gentlemen, but, you know, I guess I'm just a fucking, I'm a sheep, so I deserve it. I'm a member of the lower class, as well as you are, so we all deserve it. We all deserve to be led by the nose and play follow the leader because we're too stupid to, you know, come up with ideas for ourselves. And in a democratic, you know, as Bernays would say, in a democratic society, it's now especially it's the job of the politician to form our minds, form our opinions, and mold our opinions to meet his fucking agenda. You know what I say? I say, fuck you, Edward Bernays, and fuck your goddamn uncle, Sigmund Freud. I hope you both rot in fucking hell. Woohoo! Women in contemporary America have achieved a legal equality with men. This does not mean that their activities are identical with those of men. Women in the mass still have special interests and activities in addition to their economic pursuits and vocational interests. Women's most obvious influence is exerted when they are organized and armed with the weapon of propaganda. So organized and armed, they have made their influence felt on city councils, state legislatures, and national congresses, upon executives, upon political campaigns, and upon public opinion generally, both local and national. Okay, that's a good thing. I mean, that really is. But when you start trying to manipulate the women because you know that the children and then the men will follow, that's not such a good thing. Especially when it gets in the hands of people like the fucking Nazis. Oh, but I had nothing to do with that. No, I'm Edward Bernays. Read my book. I only take the high road. Yeah, if it's not ethical, I don't do the campaign. Yeah. All right, I'll quiet down. I'm hearing neighbors yell outside, so I don't know if they're yelling at me or if they're just yelling in general. Um, I live in a shithole apartment complex, ladies and gentlemen, so yelling is a matter of course around here. And remember Eddie Murphy on Saturday Night Live when he would do what was it, Mr. Robertson's Neighborhood, and somebody would knock on the door and he'd be like, "Who is it?" He'd scream real loud at the door. Who is it? A deep voice. I've actually done that numerous times. Uh, I like it though, man. I mean, I really do. I like living here. I like, um, call me crazy. I actually like diversity. I like living around a lot of people. I guess I'm gregarious. The thought of moving to the suburbs makes me want to puke out my fucking stomach and intestines. In politics, the American women today occupy. Okay, if the suffrage campaign did nothing more. Oh, and once again, he's talking about how great it is that women are doing this and that, and blah blah blah. Meanwhile, he worked for the tobacco industry and he was instrumental in getting women to smoke. So now, just as many, if not more, women are dying from lung cancer uh, as men. So, bravo again, Edward Bernays. If the suffrage campaign did nothing more, it showed the possibilities of propaganda to achieve certain ends. So it was all just a big fucking experiment. A bravo. This propaganda today is being utilized by women to achieve their programs in Washington and in the states. In Washington, they are organized as the Legislative Committee of 14 women's organizations, including the League of Women Voters, the Young Women's Christian Association, okay, etc., ad nauseum, blah, blah, blah. These organizations map out a legislative program and then use the modern technique of propaganda to make this legislative program actually pass into the law of the land. Their accomplishments in the field are various. They can justifiably take the credit for much welfare legislation. The 8-hour day for women is theirs. 8-hour days, that's just crazy talk. I like how people, like especially like right wingers, talk about how they hate the left wing and labor unions and blah blah blah. They're the destruction of this country. Meanwhile, before the labor unions came along, they were chaining kids to fucking machines and factories, making them work like fucking 16 to 18-hour days, and hiring children. And meanwhile, if it was not for labor unions, you wouldn't have your fucking coffee break, motherfucker, and you wouldn't have your paid leave, and you wouldn't have your paid vacation days. Look, I'm not a leftist or a socialist. I'm just, there has to be a happy medium in between. That's all I'm saying. And it's like, I love people who, love the benefits. Oh, I have health insurance and blah. And my whole family gets dental, and yeah, if I ever get hurt on the job, I'll be well taken care of. Meanwhile, I hate the unions. It's like, hey man, if it wasn't for the unions, you wouldn't have any of that fucking shit. They can justifiably take the credit for much welfare legislation. The 8-hour day for women is theirs. Undoubtedly, prohibition and its enforcement are theirs, if that can be considered an accomplishment. All right, this stuff is getting highly okay. Women, blah blah blah. Basically, he's saying go after the women. Yeah, I won't even get into that because it's very sexist, and I don't want to be killed. Let's see, Chapter 8, Propaganda for Education. Education is not securing its proper share of public interest. The public school system, materially, Chapter 8, and financially, is being adequately supported. There is marked eagerness for college education and a vague aspiration for culture, expressed in innumerable courses and lectures. The public is not cognizant of the real value of education, and does not realize that education as a social force is not receiving the kind of attention it has the right to expect in a democracy. It is felt, for example, that education is entitled to more space in the newspapers, that well-informed discussion of education hardly exists, that unless such an issue as the Gary school system is created, I have no idea what he's once again, archaic. Shoot. I think, yeah, we're just going to I think I hit all the bullet points of this book. Education. Basically saying, yeah, propaganda needs to be applied in the schools so we can teach our kids what to think and how to think. Yada, yada, yada. The mechanics of propaganda, Chapter 11. The media by which special pleaders transmit their messages to the public through propaganda include all the means by which people today transmit their ideas to one another, so applicable still today. There is no means of human communication which may not also be a means of deliberate propaganda, because propaganda is simply the establishing of reciprocal understanding between an individual and a group. The important point to the propagandist is that the relative value of the various instruments of propaganda and their relation to the masses are constantly changing. If he is to get full reach for his message, he must take advantage of these shifts of value the instant they occur. 50 years ago, the public meeting was a propaganda instrument par excellence. Today, it is difficult to get more than a handful of people to attend a public meeting unless extraordinary attractions are part of the program. Once again, that's 1928 this was written. Applicable today. The automobile takes them away from home. The radio keeps them in the home. The successive daily editions of the newspaper bring information to them in office or subway. And also they are sick of the ballyhoo of the rally. Instead, there are numerous other media of communication, some new, others old, but so transformed that they have become virtually new. The newspaper, of course, remains always a primary medium for the transmission of opinions and ideas. Interesting how the newspaper itself is starting to go away, but not really go away. They're just changing. The newspaper companies are changing their medium from the old-fashioned newspaper to the internet. In other words, for propaganda. It was not many years ago that newspaper editors resented what they called the use of the news columns for propaganda purposes. Some editors would even kill a good story if they imagined its publication might benefit anyone. Wow, can you imagine that? Someone with ethics and the field of journalism? Wow, this is really dated stuff, man. I mean, this is archaic. I don't know what he's talking about. Okay, this point of view is now largely abandoned. Today, the leading editorial offices take the view that the real criterion governing the publication or non-publication of matter which comes to the desk is its news value. Can you sell advertising space? The newspaper cannot assume, nor is it its function to assume, the responsibility of guaranteeing that what it publishes will not work out to somebody's interest. Oh yeah, they're innocent victims. There is hardly a single item in any daily paper, the publication of which does not or